Thank you all for being here and for your work that you do every single day for the American taxpayer. We really do appreciate it. What the Office of Inspector General does in every one of these agencies is extremely important. Congress and the American people established all of these agencies. These agencies just didn't appear out of dust and one day have responsibility. Congress created these agencies, and then Congress has the oversight responsibilities for these. What the Office of Inspector General does is to bring transparency to the American taxpayer, and so what you are doing is vital. So with that, Mr. Horowitz, if I asked to see all of the papers on your desk, would you assume that's only 3 pages, or would you assume that's all?
I would assume it's everything.
Would you assume if I asked for all the pages on your desk that you could go back and seek counsel and then come back and say, no, we've really decided all doesn't mean all?
Pursuant to the IG Act, no. You would get everything.
Okay. I have a real issue when any agency steps in and says, I know Congress has required all these pages to be turned over, but we've discussed it as an agency and we're not going to turn it over. I have an issue with that. I have an issue with any time an agency steps up and says, we don't like some of the information coming out, and so we're going to choose not to give it. I don't like it when I read reports from the Attorney General when he writes back to the Inspector General and says, I have determined that providing the OIG with access to it is helpful to me, and so I'm going to turn this over because it's helpful to me. That implies to me that he's also reviewing other documents and saying, I'm determined this is not helpful to me, so I'm not turning it over. That is not the responsibility of the Attorney General of the United States to be able to conceal documents that are not helpful and to turn over documents that are. So with that, I have several questions. The roadblocks that you all have experienced over the last several years. Mr. Horowitz, you've been at this how many years?
A little over 2 years.
So of what you have seen and the folks that you have talked to, Mr. Elkins, how long have you been at this as an Inspector General or with the Inspector General's office?
Just a little over 4 years, sir.
Okay. Ms. Buehler?
6 years.
Okay. The question is, this is obviously an old law. This is not new. This is requiring the administration, every administration, any administration, to say American tax dollars are at use here. What have you seen in the individuals that you have talked to and other folks that are around that have worked in the Inspector General office, some for decades? What are they experiencing now that has changed? And has it changed? Is this just normal protocol from every administration to drag their feet on every investigation, or is something changing? And I'm not asking this in a political way. I'm just trying to figure out, is this just typical normal protocol from every administration, every agency?
I can certainly speak to our situation. I've talked to my predecessors, and I think the answer is quite clearly no in our circumstances. We did FBI oversight after the attacks of 9/11, after the Robert Hansen scandal. We were given complete access to the materials we needed. We didn't face these kinds of issues. Frankly, we didn't face these issues until 2010 or 2011.
Are you finding that FOIA requests and the information coming out from a FOIA request is coming out as fast or at equal speed than what you are getting from the Inspector General's office?
I actually haven't compared those, so I couldn't speak to that.
I can tell you in Congress we are finding that at times that we'll make a request of a document and a FOIA request happens, and the FOIA request gets it the same day that we do, sometimes faster. So that has been an issue. Mr. Elkins, I have a question for you. You're dealing with the EPA, and you said in your oral testimony that you're being blocked from the EPA receiving information that they have deemed intelligence activity. Tell me about that.
Yes, sir. The EPA, the Office of Homeland Security, has asserted that it is the primary office in EPA to handle any issues related that have intelligence connected to it. Unfortunately, they do not have investigation authority. There's only 2 entities within EPA that has investigative authorities. One is the OIG and the other is CID. In terms of employee misconduct cases, which typically result in where you have intelligence information where individuals inside the agency is doing something illegal, it's going to be related to employee misconduct.
Right. So can you tell what intelligence activity is within the EPA? What they're saying they're withholding this information from you. You can't look at it because it's intelligence activities. Can you tell what that is?
Well, to the extent that they have the intelligence activities information, I don't know because they don't share that information with me.
Well, I can tell you this committee finds that ironic because it wasn't that long ago we had someone sitting at that same table that pretended to be with the CIA and was also with the EPA, and for years eluded EPA oversight because he claimed he was secretly working for the CIA. So I find it ironic that the EPA is now telling the Inspector General, well, this is intelligence related. We can't pass this on for oversight. I'm going to be very interested to hear from the EPA what intelligence activities that they are doing on the American people and what intelligence activities that they're doing nationwide or worldwide related to the Environmental Protection Act, and why they would say this is so secret that we're not going to allow the American people to see the activities of the EPA or to allow the Inspector General to participate in oversight for that. I think that's a reasonable question to ask any agency that doesn't have investigative intelligence responsibilities, how they have somehow created their own intelligence department and what they're doing with that. Mr. Chairman, thank you for allowing me the extra seconds here of questioning, and I thank you all for your work.